Get your tickets now for the 23rd annual edition of the OUTshine LGBTQ Plus Film Festival, happening April 23rd to May 2nd. Don't miss our incredible grand opening drive-in event, followed by 10 days of non-stop films from here and all around the world that you can watch at home. Watch trailers and get your tickets at OUTshineFilm.com now.
Welcome to OUTshine Virtual Film Festival, our Miami edition. I'm Jen Kritz, the board vice chair, and we are doing a live Q&A with the documentary filmmakers of the shorts, Particular Friendships and Sparking here at OUTshine. Please welcome Mark Padilla, the co-director, and Susan Kelly, the subject of Particular Friendships, as well as Beta Bygart, the filmmaker from Sparking. Welcome to OUTshine.
Thank you.
So we always find that there's such a dearth of lesbian content in documentaries, and we're really happy to put together an entire shorts program this year of lesbian documentaries. Let's start with Particular Friendships. Mark, you're a professor of global studies at FIU, and you mentioned in your intro that you work with a group of social scientists looking at social issues through visual methods, motivated by compelling stories that drive critical reflection on social dilemmas, which is such an interesting way to handle this through film. How did you select Susan for this project?
Yeah, well, I think it continues to fit that pattern of trying to find compelling stories that speak to social problems. What's maybe unique in the documentary with Susan is that she's also my stepmom. So we met through personal family networks, and then that's when slowly over the years I got to know her full story and thought that this is a very compelling story for a documentary. And it was also, you know, a personal journey because I was getting to know my stepmom and getting to know and love her, and to know and love her as my stepmom and as someone who loves my mom. And so that was beautiful. And I think it got to a point where we just really wanted to tell the story and to share the story, and Susan was ready for that.
You mentioned, Susan, in the documentary that you were with Sandy 22 years, or at least at the filming of the documentary. When was this documentary filmed?
Almost 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, we started in 2019. Yeah.
Oh, so we've been together 24 years now.
So how interesting to learn more about your stepmom 22 years later anyway, and really dive into this issue. Susan, was this something that you just didn't talk much about until later on in life?
I didn't talk about it because I didn't think about it. I don't know, it was in the documentary, but I was in the convent for 25 years. And as a nun, we didn't think about such things. So it just wasn't something that came into the conversation very much.
So when did you start talking about it, and what gave you the feeling of liberty to just start telling your stepchildren and, you know, talking more about it?
Well, I became very attached to one of our sisters. And slowly it became obvious to me that I was lesbian, although it was a surprise to me. But and so I started talking to people about it and became more and more comfortable with it. And of course, my stepchildren are both lesbian, are both gay. Mark is gay, my stepdaughter is lesbian, and my wife is lesbian. So it's very easy to talk to my family about this.
It's the most normal thing in the world.
Yeah.
What are the odds? That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that struck me so much about this, because there's a lot of parallels in a way between Sparking as well as your film, is this sense of acceptance and how that really drives what you do. And you talk very much, Susan, about how you waited for your parents to pass on before you left the convent, as if it was such a hard, I mean, it must be such a psychological thing, because later you mentioned that all you had to do was write a letter and then they accept it and you're out. Or at least that was what I took from it.
That's exactly it.
So it seems like it's almost just like a real mental thing to go through to say you're quitting something. It's not like a prison where you know have a hard time getting out, but it's a mental decision, and that it was something you felt you had to wait for your parents to pass before you had the freedom to do that. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, my parents were so Catholic. I think I was afraid of offending them. They would have thought less of me if they knew that I was leaving. It just was a hard thing to do. And I was thinking of leaving for several years. And everybody that I talked to would say, oh, no, you're just going through something. And so I kind of let it go. And religious life was not terrible. It was wonderful. It was the best. They were the best years of my life. So I just let it go on. And first my father died, who I was very close to. And then my mother died several years later. And I wasn't close to my mother. So when she died, I thought, I don't have to make anybody happy anymore. I can make me happy. So it just became very obvious that it was time to go.
Well, it's such a similar message, as I mentioned earlier with Sparking. So if I may ask you, Beta, how did you decide to make this project? You are primarily a photographer, but you're also a filmmaker. Tell us first a little bit about your background.
Thank you. So as you said, I make my living as a photographer in Ireland, based in Dublin, but filmmaking is the big dream, and that's where I'm trying to go to. I have made a couple of years ago, I have published a book about women in unusual professions, and many of them were male professions. And this book had great feedback. I did an exhibition, and I made also my first 3 short films about women behind these photographs. They were 3 short films about one rally driver. Then there was a short film about a lifeboat navigator, and short film about a felt designer who works with just one hand. And having this background, I was actually commissioned in 2019, I think. I kind of lost track with the COVID, but it was, we finished Sparking last year. So it was in 2019. I got commissioned by an organization who operates in Ireland and in England. And I'm not going to say the name of the organization because it's a little bit bittersweet story. But the commission was to create films about inspiring women, another 3 inspiring women who grew up in disadvantaged, unprivileged backgrounds. And this organization is trying to work with kids who are growing up in disadvantaged areas, and is trying to help them and inspire them. And so I got commissioned to create 3 films, but I was to do the research as well and find these women. And I knew about Dill before because she's very vocal journalist here in Ireland. She's fantastic podcaster. She is activist, and I always admired her. So I just gave her a call and I said, listen, I think you are really great candidate for someone like this, the person who grew up in unprivileged background and who can inspire kids who might be in the same situation. And and yeah, I knew a little bit about her background. Yeah, this is Dill, the lovely Dill. And she said yes, which was fantastic. So basically, we did this short film as a commission. But unfortunately, this organization never used this film for what they commissioned it. And the reason was that it turned out that they think that Dill's story is so amazing that she is not relatable to kids who are growing up on the streets, which was really sad and weird to find out. And we actually we did lovely film, and all of a sudden it turned out that they were not happy with the content, and it ended up in the drawer for a couple of months. And then we eventually agreed that we can at least be sending it and showing it to the festivals, which we're delighted. And OUTshine is our first festival, so thank you very much.
Wow. Well, we're honored to premiere it then.
Yes.
And of course, you're speaking about Dilwik Ramasinghe. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that perfectly.
It's Wickramasinghe. It's yeah.
So not quite what I said. Yes. So we just want to remind everyone we are doing this live, and we may occasionally get questions from the audience. So if we pop some things in like that, just don't be alarmed. Getting back to you though, Beta. So when you did these 3 films, were all 3 of them with lesbians or just women and she was the only gay one?
No, they were just strong women. And Dill, I knew she was lesbian, but it didn't have any impact on any choice. She's just fantastic, a fantastic journalist, fantastic woman, and she has absolutely wonderful family. Her wife is equally amazing human being. And yeah, so I was not choosing gay gay people. It's yeah, that's all I can say. She's just amazing.
Well, it has an amazing message because she speaks of her experience growing up in between Italy and Sri Lanka, and that when she came out to her parents, they threw her out. And when she eventually made her way to Ireland, and in fact, do you know why she chose Ireland of all places to migrate to?
Not really. I think it was partially an accident as well. But I think immediately she found her, like, the reason why she stayed here. She says at the beginning that she found herself marching with the pride, and immediately she found acceptance here. And that's what Susan was talking about, the acceptance. It's something that we all are craving, isn't it?
Well, and the other big point that that Dill makes, throughout, is she just doesn't understand how a parent could turn their back on a child, and that she always says, "I would never do that." And that's again part of the parallels of Susan's story and how she felt that she had to live a certain life because she was afraid that her parents would turn their back on you. Is that right, Susan?
That's correct. That's correct.
And what was that like, Mark, for you to grow up with 2 moms and you yourself find out that you're gay or discover?
Well, there's a whole other documentary there. I actually came out to my mom before she came out to me. So my mom came out late in life, and it really was about falling in love with Susan. She didn't identify as lesbian at that time. In fact, she struggled to come out with her own identity, and we talked through it because I was already an out gay man. And sometime in the 90s, I would talk to my mom on the phone and I said, she's talking about Susan all the time. There must be something going on here. And I kind of had a series of conversations with her. I remember before a Christmas visit where I told my partner at the time, I think my mom's a lesbian and she doesn't know it. And he thought I was being ridiculous. And so it actually turned out that at that Christmas, my mom struggled to come out to me. And the way she came out to me was to tell me she was buying a house with Susan, and they had purple bikes in their garage, matching purple bikes in their garage. And so, it's been an interesting process. It's not the way that you typically imagine, maybe if you typically imagine an all gay family, but in this case, the son came out first, that being me. And then it facilitated a lot of nice conversations as they were coming through their own process of coming out and coming to terms with it. And Susan was just out of the convent 3 years at that time.
That's true.
Not long out of the convent. So she had gone through her own process there, as we tell in the documentary, but it takes a village, I guess, and love.
Now, what about your sister, Mark? When did she come out?
She came out after all of us. How many years ago?
About 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago or so, and is now married to my lovely sister-in-law, Kim, who's an acupuncturist, and my husband is also here with us. I mean, we have an all-queer weekend here.
Everybody.
Now that we're all vaccinated and we're finally together, it's lovely. And I think, as you say, at the end of at some point in particular friendships, you say, it's just lovely to be gay.
It is.
It's just wonderful to be gay. And I think that that's kind of the nice part of the story, just as a story, not necessarily my family story only, but as a story, is that it kind of has this beautiful resolution that we sometimes don't hear always, but with your life trajectory behind you and able to reflect on it, you can see that you went through your struggles, but you've reached an amazing point here, and we're all together, and we all love each other, and so it's a beautiful story in that way.
So we have a question here from the audience. Susan, do you still consider yourself religious or Catholic? And did you raise your kids in the Catholic religion? I have stepchildren.
Oh, I do not consider myself Catholic. I don't consider myself religious. I've just been so turned off by the Catholic religion that I'm just so far away from it. And no, I don't raise my stepchildren. Everybody has their own beliefs, spiritual beliefs, and I don't try to influence them in any way, and they don't try to influence me.
Yeah, I seem to remember at the end of the documentary, you made a comment that you weren't even sure if you believed in God.
Right.
When did you have that doubt? Was it while you were in the convent or much later?
No, it wasn't when I was in the convent. I, especially later on when I was toying with the idea that I was really gay, it occurred to me that the Catholic Church was about as anti-gay as you could be. They were persecuting us. They weren't letting gay people hold meetings in the Catholic churches or the rectory or the meeting rooms. They didn't allow gay people to go to the sacraments. And it occurred to me that that they were just really not Christian. And I just had a hard time with that. And I thought, no God of mine would really, go along with that. So I began to really question God, and I still do.
Wow. We have another question here from the audience for Beta. Beta, what surprised you most about your subject that you might not have been aware of?
Oh, that is really interesting question. What surprised me most? Probably in general, what surprises me still is that in general, society is still homophobic despite the progress, despite last many years that we're trying to be open, and there was marriage equality referendum in 2015 in Ireland, and everybody voted yes for equal marriage, or I mean, sorry, not everybody, 60%. So that was fantastic, but the truth is that the society is still homophobic in a way, and probably in the whole world. And this is what is surprising to me. Yeah, that.
Well, if you could look back and, now it's been a couple of years since both of you have finished your films, and now it's out for the public to see. Starting with you, Mark and Susan, what is it that you want the audience to take away as the clear message after seeing your film?
Well, I think the thing that I'd like people to take away is the fact that you really have to trust yourself. There's nothing more important than relationships, healthy relationships. And there's so many rules and regulations, not just in the Catholic Church, but in the world, about what's right and what's not right. And you do need to trust yourself. And if you enjoy the company of somebody and it's a healthy relationship, and you bring positive outcomes to each other, that you need to go with it. You need to trust it.
What about you, Mark, when you were studying this?
Well, I mean, I think it is a story of overcoming, and I think that's something that is inspiring for me, both in our family and as a model. Just being able to, despite the circumstances, she was in a very repressed environment, and still was able to self-reflect and was able to learn about herself. And that took some struggle, but she was able to resolve and reach some kind of resolution in her life, and love and beauty. So I think what I hope is that people go on that journey and maybe can find a way to reach some sort of resolution in their personal life without having to go through 25 years in a convent. Not that that's a bad thing, but just that in Susan's case, it wasn't the right place for her to be. And it's a part of her life, and you've come to terms with that. But I think hopefully there are environments that we can create that allow people to reach those resolution points without having to do what she went through.
And Beta, what about you? What would you like the audience to take away from your film about Dill?
I think Dill actually sums it up really beautifully at the end of the short film. We all are being brought up as children. We have to do things to deserve something. You do this and then you deserve, and you will be awarded. And Dill says at the end of the film, she says, growing up in Sri Lanka, she, to deserve love, she had to be a good girl, and she had to be married to a man, and she had to do whatever. And she says, we have to know, and we have to be aware of the fact that to deserve love, we do not have to do a single thing. We all deserve love, no matter who we are, where we are, what we are.
Well, these certainly are two fantastic shorts, both with beautiful messages and important for our audience to see. Susan, I just have to tell you, you're so eloquent in telling your story. You have such a good way of speaking. It's so easy to learn from and enjoy. And it must have been really interesting working with your stepson and having him direct you, and it just came off beautifully. Beta, it's so clear that you're a photographer. and the way that Dill's documentary is shot is just beautiful. You can see that the lighting, the photography behind it is just stunning. So I just wanted to personally thank you both, all of you, for bringing your shorts to our festival. We're really happy to have them, and we hope that we'll see you again in person. And Mark, you're right down the street.
Oh,
So
great. Give me a call.
yeah, we hope we'll see you at the festival. And and Beta, I found out that Beta is actually my cousin. So we're going to have to go back on our DNA and figure out how many, if it's second cousins or 22nd cousins, but
We'll figure it out.
we'll figure it out. What a pleasure. Thank you all so much. We're going to end with a clip of one of the shorts here, and oh, yes, of Particular Friendships. And to our audience, thank you so much for supporting our film. Thank you for supporting gay filmmakers and gay film. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
So one of the things we heard early on was this whole thing about PFs, particular friendships, a term that describes exactly what the church does not want to happen. Nuns were supposed to be sexless, and all I could think about was, I broke my vow of celibacy. I really have a particular relationship with this woman, but it felt really good because I loved being with her.